Welcome to the panel discussion hosted by GemAtlas with three vibrant and successful women, Katerina Perez, Danielle Miele, and Jen Cullen-Williams, who will be our moderator for today. Katerina Perez, founder and editor-in-chief of KaterinaPerez.com. She is a specialist with professional knowledge and insight on the industry. Our second speaker for today is Danielle Miele, who is the founder of Gemgossip, the jewelry blog focusing on jewelry trends, antique and period jewelry, celebrity jewelry, as well as exclusive designer interviews. And lastly, our moderator, Jen Cullen-Williams, founder of Jen Cullen-Williams Communications. She is known for creativity and connections and specializes in enhancing the market exposure for brands, retailers, and organizers in the jewelry, fashion, luxury, and consumer goods market. GemAtlas is a global B2B networking platform for the gems and jewelry industry. We provide a platform of equal opportunities to all industry professionals to take their businesses online, freely connect with each other, and generate new leads on a more global level. We are honored to have them share their valuable insights with us today. The topic for today is social media and jewelry marketing trends of 2021. If you see on your screen below, there are two buttons. One is a chat feature, which will help you speak with our team and interact with members of the audience, along with the Q&A button to enter the questions and have them answered during the session. Over to you, Jen.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the GemAtlas team for inviting us to speak and present today. And thank you to my panelists for joining. And thank you to all of you that are tuning in from all over the world. We'd love to hear where you're from. So if you want to put in the chat where you're from and also put what kind of business you're in. So if you're a wholesaler, a gemstone dealer, if you're a retailer, designer, we're very curious. I'm just a marketing professional. So again, thank you. I am Jen Cullen-Williams. I'm a communications consultant and I am from Southern California, and I'm very pleased to be your moderator today. I'm joined by two very brilliant women, Danielle Miele, Gemgossip, and Katerina Perez, and they are both widely known for social media and their influence. They are considered influencers, but they're so much more than just influencers. They're both strategic marketers. They're social media experts. They're both, dabble in different types of collaboration. They're storytellers. They're editors. They're creative directors. And Katerina is an educator and has a series of courses and speaks all over the world. Danielle has her own line of jewelry and also very entrenched in the vintage and estate market. And so she's got a very big following there. And then Katerina is very well known in the high luxury jewelry space. So they both bring a lot of expertise, and I'm excited to share more about them. And welcome to everyone. I'm just kind of taking a look at the chat really quick to kind of see, wow, we've got, it's like all over the world. Like, I love this. We're getting like a global perspective. So thank you everyone for joining in. We're going to talk about social media. We're going to talk about digital trends. We're going to talk about influencer marketing. We're going to talk about marketing trends. And I absolutely welcome anyone to ask questions in the Q&A box. So please drop those in. We'll try to address them either as we're going or towards the end. And if there's anything else that you're looking for from us, we'll have our contact information at the end. So I'm going to kick it off with my first question, which is, I would love to hear from each panelist a little bit more about themselves, their background, and what they're currently doing today. So I'll send it over to Danielle to tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Danielle. I'm the creator and founder of Gemgossip, which is a blog all about jewelry, which I started way back in 2008 when most people didn't really know what a blog really was. Since then, I've gotten my graduate gemologist degree from GIA. I've traveled across the United States visiting jewelry stores, jewelry designers, really featuring them and putting a spotlight on what they do. And that was called my Jewelry Road Trip Project. And I visited over 100 jewelry stores and jewelry designers across 20 different states. A lot of fun. I was planning on doing that as well in 2020, but that is definitely not the case. But so most recently, I've launched a fine jewelry line with QVC, which is, if you don't know, a home shopping network that is very popular in the United States. And then I also sell vintage and antique jewelry on Instagram. And I'm a mom.
Love it. Katerina, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Oh, you're mute.
Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Katerina Perez, and I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of KaterinaPerez.com, which is a website dedicated to fine jewelry and gemstones. In the beginning, I was solely focusing on writing, but over the years, I grew to be a specialist in certain areas of jewelry, like, for example, Instagram marketing. And at the moment, I'm keeping myself really busy with the course I'm running for the industry about how to sell jewelry on Instagram.
Wonderful. So my first, or actually this is my second question, or maybe this is my third, I don't know at this point, but I'll have to drink. It's a little early in California. So what are some trends that each of you are seeing in social media? You know, is it, are you seeing any kinds of cool, interesting things happening right now, or things that you see are going to be the future of 2021? Anyone want to kick that off?
Well, let me be the first one to say in this question. I feel that the emphasis right now is a lot into creating unique and interesting content, because solely there is oversaturation of all different photos and videos, and now there's reels on Instagram and so many different ways of communication that if your content is not engaging enough, if it doesn't stand out in the crowd, then you're gonna be just not getting much result from your social media activities. Also, I feel like a lot is focused on quality rather than quantity. I'm sure Danielle also remembers, say 5-7 years ago, it was all about having 1 million followers and you're great. Right now, your audience is what makes you great. You can have 10,000 people who are really active, who are real people, who interact with you, who follow you religiously, who buy from you, and this is your precious asset, rather than that 1 million number, which sometimes doesn't really mean much.
Yeah,
Really
totally. Especially in terms of like posting. Even when I first started, I was posting sometimes 4 times a day on Instagram, which would kind of, if someone did that now, it might be a little too much. But it's funny how Instagram, it's all about evolving, and it's continually, it changes all the time. So one thing I suggest is always being on the cusp of those changes. And anytime Instagram adds a new feature, for example, Reels, like right now, that is just very popular. Anytime someone posts a Reels, which is a short video, it has to be 14 seconds or less. Sort of like TikTok version, but on Instagram. The viewership of those videos is just so much more, at least the ones that I've posted, so much more than just, for example, posting a video on my feed in general. So taking advantage of those new features, I think, is something really important for people to do, especially like the little stories. Instagram comes out with little stickers all the time, like the one that said stay home when COVID lockdown happened. And anytime I would post something with and added that sticker to it, the viewership of that story just, was way more, sometimes quadruple the amount of viewers that I typically get on a story. And the same with, like, recently in the United States, at least, we had a voting sticker. Same with that, just try to discover these new things that Instagram is constantly adding.
You know, I want to add to that because we're like dinosaurs, you know, of social media, really. I've been running my Instagram for 7 years. You've been doing for, I think, 10 years or something. I really feel the dynamics of, well, Instagram specifically, but in many social media has changed. When in the beginning we can, for example, post a photo and then maybe reply to comments some other time or be kind of more relaxed. Right now, especially for business, right? If you're an owner of a business and you want to use your social media to, well, sell jewelry, like I'm training now, it's not enough just to post something and maybe reply some other time and maybe not check your DMs every so often, because the consumer, the way they act on social media, they want to get everything fast. They want to see the picture, understand right away what it's about. They want to read the caption, understand why they're writing it, what the person who posts this, what to tell them. If they're shopping, they want to quickly access the price, everything they need to know to make a purchase. Otherwise, if they don't get information within sometimes minutes, they're just going to swipe and go somewhere else. You know, the competition is huge. The saturation of content is huge. So now the big challenge for everyone who does business on social media is how can you stand out? How can you be super clear and punchy in your messages, what you're trying to say to, well, the consumer? And thirdly, how can you be more reactive to everything the consumer is, well, doing on your Instagram comments, DMs, you know, live Instagram comments as well. In America, for example, you're lucky because you can sell even in live Instagram. So it's changed a lot. Before it was a platform, well, Instagram specifically, to share pictures. Now it's a shop. You know, Instagram now is like really focusing on Instagram as being a shop. So
Yes. Really good points. And I like to say that it's called social media. It's not called media or social. It's social media. So it's an opportunity to share and storytell the way media does, but it's also social. So you need to be engaging and you need to be connecting. And if you're not doing those two things together, then you're not doing social media correctly. So that's kind of like one thing I kind of always try to plug in there. So as far as for businesses, because just looking at, you know, the people that are that have commented so far in the chat, we've got a mix of, you know, a lot of wholesalers, B2B businesses, and then we have some people that are direct to consumer. So as far as platforms go, I mean, I think we can all agree that in the jewelry industry, Instagram is probably the top platform out there. But are there any other platforms that you would suggest that businesses really kind of invest some time into because it could drive some potential business leads? Any thoughts on like the other platforms outside of Instagram?
I would say for wholesaling, a great way is through Facebook private groups. There's a lot of them out there, and a lot of them do, you know, some vetting where you can't be let into the group unless you answer several questions and, you know, show proof of what you do and that sort of thing. So one that comes to mind right off the bat is Jewelers Helping Jewelers. That's a really great Facebook group that is a private Facebook group where wholesalers can sell pieces to other people that own jewelry stores across the world. And then LinkedIn is a great place also for wholesaling, people to connect.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
I feel that Pinterest is strong as well, but I'm talking more about e-commerce because, you know, on Pinterest, once you've shared something on the board, if someone repins that pin, it always goes back to the original source. So it drives traffic. Also, in my case, I'm not selling anything on my website, but I get quite a lot of traffic from Pinterest because this is how it works. You know, one person pinned, another one repinned, so two people now go back to your website, and it's like that, like a virus.
a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was actually. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Say on Pinterest and YouTube, they're very searchable. So like Instagram, for example, if you do a Google search, you can't really find things that way that are posted on Instagram, but on Pinterest and YouTube you can. So those two platforms are really great for website traffic and driving traffic to your website.
That's great. So my next question is kind of around when you're setting some goals for social media. I think a number one goal is driving conversion, but conversion can mean different things to different types of business. So I'd love to hear from you what you think are really good measurements of conversion, you know, email signups, actual sales, leads, that kind of thing. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on conversion and how companies can be thinking about that when they're setting some goals for social media. Anyone?
I would say, at least for, you know, if you're posting on Instagram, to set some goals on, you know, getting comments and likes, but also like the quality of them, and, you know, how do you start to gain those comments more? You know, you can't just post a picture and expect people to comment. You know, tell a story, ask a question. You know, first off, you have a beautiful photo to get someone to stop scrolling and to look closer and to read the caption. So those are all important things. But yeah, in terms of like email signups, for me at least, my email signups were kind of a dead point for me. I would have like the little sign up thing at the bottom of my website, and you know, sometimes I would get one or two here or there, but not much. Until recently, when I changed the link in my bio of my Instagram to a link tree. A link tree is, you know, it's a landing page that can have several different websites just in from the one link. So if you click the link in my bio, it'll say, sign up for my newsletter, check out my website, here's my QVC line. So ever since doing that, it's crazy how much more email signups I've gotten. So I recommend doing that and looking into a link tree link for your Instagram bio.
It's a great tip for everyone out there. I see it all the time, and I actually I really like when people have that, because it kind of helps me filter out what information I'm trying to seek from them. And you know, the way that Instagram and other platforms, they only have one link. So if you're going to do it, maximize the opportunity for capturing that audience. So Katerina, any other additional thoughts on that?
I just want to remind everyone that social media is, first of all, a tool for socializing and entertainment. So when you are trying to turn social media into a business tool, it's possible, but sales can't be the direct sale can't be the result you're looking for, because it's very rarely that someone just sees something and buys it right away. People need to start trusting the brand and get to know the brand before they can buy off their social media. So in my opinion, you know, the way to judge if your social media is doing well or not is based mostly on quality leads, you know, on quality requests. It's still people-to-people social media, right? It's one person talking to another person. And in this conversation, in this keeping in touch, you start getting to know each other, start understanding each other's tastes. Let you be a brand talking with the client starts understanding the brand, you start understanding the client, you know what to offer them, like that. And I know that very often, well, let's talk about Instagram. Very often the sale doesn't happen directly, but for example, if you're a brand, you can be followed by a multi-brand boutique who saw you on Instagram, and eventually they approach you and they start selling your jewelry in their boutique. That's also happened thanks to Instagram. Or it can be an editor, right, who liked something you featured. They shared it in the, well, they published it in a magazine, and then someone saw it in the magazine and bought it eventually from you. So in reality, you know, I had conversation quite often with brands about their performance in terms of like sales. And honestly, it's not a standard thing. It's a bonus, but it's not something that is given. You know, even if you put a boutique on your Instagram page, even if you start showing the prices everywhere, it's something which is an add-on to having a great, like very strong community and getting those quality leads in your DMs, in comments, well, some replies to your stories. So
Yes, and actually, and I'm going to answer one of a question that came through that was about engagement, and it was actually one of my next questions. Is just how do you continue to engage? You know, both of you have been on. I've been on Instagram since like I don't know 2010 or 11. How do you continue to evolve your content and all of your social platforms and make it engaging? So, are there any just like quick tips for businesses on creating engaging content? And then another question that I'm sort of answering live is, you know, should you have wordy captions or should you keep your captions short? Any thoughts around that?
Good questions. I continually, I like to share about my own personal life. I think it is good for jewelry stores and jewelry designers to let that part into their business and people want to see how a piece is made. People want to see, what you do on a daily basis, or like, it's okay to share some parts of your family as well. I think that adds to everything. But for me, I would say a lot of my interactions go unseen because they're through private message and DMs. Like I will spend hours daily responding and replying to DMs from people, whether it's people just asking questions about where I got a certain piece or just like general questions about life. I am constantly chatting with my audience and bringing them into my life and answering questions kind of like on a friend to friend basis. And I truly believe that what has helped my selling antique and estate pieces be as successful as it is, because a lot of people have said, like, how are you selling antique and vintage jewelry just through Instagram and not having an e-commerce website? And a lot of people might say that's not probably the smartest thing to do, but it's what has worked for me, and I'll continue to do so.
That's great. Katerina, any thoughts on engaging? We're getting also another kind of question is from some companies that are in the wholesaling space. They're not necessarily they said their audience is really the retailer that they're selling to, and the retailer isn't necessarily doesn't necessarily have the time, or nor do they want to like showcase what suppliers they're working with, especially if they're a designer that's selling, loose gemstone or selling gemstone jewelry or whatnot. So how would you say some B2B businesses should be creating content that's engaging still and helping their business?
When you create content, first of all, you think of your target audience. So the target audience of the person who wants to sell to a consumer, of course, is different from the target audience of a B2B business. So knowing the needs of your audience will dictate how you're going to create that content. Of course, it might not need to be so entertaining and so varied like you do for the consumer, but still it has to, showcase your company ethos. What's good about your company? What are you doing different from others? What's so special about you? Because business to business, another a jeweler who potentially will buy from you is also a customer. They also want to know how they're going to sell your jewelry to the consumer. What's so special about your jewelry that they can further communicate to the consumer who comes for them for a purchase. So I think the bottom line here is, okay, for a business to business, you don't have to be so entertaining and so creative with your Instagram feed, but you still have to think, what can I showcase on my Instagram which will spark the curiosity in my customer? What can I do differently? How can I showcase my uniqueness through social media? So this is a question for everybody, regardless if it's a jewelry, if it's any other company, if it's a personal account as well. The thing is, there's so much content out there. How can you interest those who follow you with what you showcase to them, right? So in business is the same. But coming back quickly to the question about how to stay engaging, right? How to create content. I think like one thing I've noticed on numerous occasions when jewelers who have their Instagram and they really want to make it work, instead of creating content for Instagram, like for example I do, they have a mixture of different pictures, and then they try to like put this puzzle together to have something come out of it. And this is what makes an Instagram account that really works different from the one that is a puzzle. So unfortunately for jewelers, Instagram is an investment. If you want to see the results, it's investment of time, it's investment of money in photo shoots, maybe in creative agency who can help to build the beautiful feed. But if you constantly work on it, if you're consistent with your posting, if your content is beautiful and it catches the eye, if you speak with the audience, if you don't leave those comments unanswered, if you reply to your DMs and reply pretty fast, you will build this strong following, strong community, which will stay with you and which will buy from you, and the result will be there.
Perfect. Yeah, and you're kind of answering. There's some questions coming through. I love our engaged audience. This is so nice. One thing that someone said, if you have a jewelry that's a little more photogenic, do you think that's going to increase sales? And the chances, yes, if you can really photograph something very beautifully, especially worn by a person, so you can get an idea of the scale and how it fits and how it might look with other jewelry, I think absolutely it can increase the sales. I'm just going to say that we answered that live. And then there was another question about just any programs to manage engagement, tracking your audience, just any quick tools that you both use to help, manage your audience and just understand your audience.
Also, I just want to say, I think a lot of people put so much focus on beautiful photography, which I definitely agree with, and we've clearly stated that. But I think sometimes people try to buy a really expensive camera and they get, frustrated on how to even use that that huge camera, and they get overwhelmed and intimidated. And honestly, I think that a really good iPhone, like the latest iPhone, and some sunlight, and go outside, go next to a window, I think you can create some beautiful photos using an iPhone. Just if you can get the lighting right. I just want to put that out there too, because I think, I don't want people to get intimidated and be like, well, I have to hire a company to photograph things or buy a big fancy dancy camera. Like, you can do it with an iPhone for sure. But anyways, in terms of like the insights and things like that, I just use my Instagram. If you have an Instagram business account, you can see your insights that way. And that's how I keep track of like how many people followed me, how many people unfollowed me, that sort of thing.
Great.
I personally use an app called Iconosquare, which has deep analytics. And also in Iconosquare, well, good for business, you can check your competition, you can do comparison analysis with the performance of your competition. That's for somebody who is keen to see how everyone else is doing. But also, Iconosquare does have much accurate analytics and broader ones too, including different things about stories and your posts. Also, it gives you some hints on best time to post and more accurate than Instagram itself.
I need to check that out, because
yeah,
I feel like Instagram never really gives you a good time to post. They just base it off of when you do actually post. I feel like that's kind of skewed.
Yeah, exactly. But also with that app, which I'm talking about, the great thing, you can also schedule your posts. You can keep all your content there. So when I create content, instead of keeping it somewhere on my computer, I put everything on this platform and it's all there. So when I need to plan something, I just go, oh, okay, I'm taking these images, and then I prepare.
What's that? What's it called?
Iconosquare. I wonder if I can type it.
Is it like monthly?
Iconosquare.
She's putting it in the chat.
Nice.
And Yeah. And so another question that I'll answer live is just about algorithm changes specifically on Instagram. Just how do you track those changes, so you can stay on top of what's happening on Instagram, and stay on top of what the trends are. Any thoughts on that?
I personally have learned to, how to say, not manipulate my account, but I understand what kind of posts give what kind of results. I understand which kind of post will give me more likes, which kind of post will make people talk to me, which kind of post will make people share what I'm posting. So instead of focusing on algorithm, because we'll never know it, it's a big data. We don't know what's happening. Like, no one really knows. So instead of like fixing on, oh my God, algorithm, our views have dropped, our reach has dropped. Okay, so something's dropped, your likes have gone down. Post something from your experience that will bring you more likes. You see that people are not really commenting, post something maybe from your, as Danielle said, personal life always gets a lot of, comments, because it's emotional. It's something, that gets emotions out of every person, like especially if we show our kids or some family happy moments. Of course, if you are a business account for selling jewelry, it doesn't mean you should start bombarding it with your kids and things like that, but something personal related to your work, how you became a jeweler, how did you study jewelry, what you love about jewelry, what you feel is so special about the company. I don't know, anything about you and the business you are in will bring some kind of responses.
I agree exactly with what she said. I like to ignore the algorithm and not think about it, because if you think about it too much and try to figure it out, it's just debilitating. So I would say I love when jewelry designers post a photo of themselves and they put in the caption like, hi, I haven't done this in a while. Here are some facts about myself, or anything along that lines. I love when people post that. I always read from beginning to end and comment. And I think those types of posts get a lot of feedback in general. And I think those are great to do every once in a while. I'll give you two examples of ones that I've done recently that I've actually gotten a lot of feedback, because again, Instagram engagement as a whole is down. I will say that for sure. But for example, recently I lost my engagement ring for like an entire day. And I just wrote a blog or a Instagram post about it, and just saying how that I lost it for an entire day, looked everywhere. Have you lost a piece of jewelry in your life? And that right away instantly sparked so many comments and conversation, and just connecting with my followers that way. It was a great post. The other ones, I would say anytime I post carousel type of Instagram where there's like two photos at least, and being like, do you like this or do you like that? And swipe to see the two different things I'm talking about. Those are easy posts to do, and those get a lot of comments, engagement. I definitely recommend adding that to your repertoire if you don't already do that.
Really great. Katerina, there's been a few requests to get the link to your online selling. So by the end, we will put in the chat, we will put the link for Katerina's. If you just go to her website and you go to online course, that's how you can find, and it's katerinaperez.com. But I keep seeing it in the chat, so I just wanted to make sure we're addressing it. I'm going to take a little quick pivot to just kind of talk, so flip your hat switch to how you partner with brands, and how brands should be thinking about if they wanted to partner with some type of influential person or expert on Instagram, how they could potentially work with them, and some things that they should be thinking about. So we won't spend too much time here. We'll do this, and then we still need to get to design trends and all of that. And I know there's a lot of requests for that as well. So just as far as partnering with influencers, what should brands be thinking about before they partner with an influencer?
First of all, not look at their numbers of followers. but look at the communication, what happens on their page, how authentic they are, do they keep in touch with their audience, do they answer comments? It's not about numbers anymore. It's about the value of the audience that an influencer has. And it's very important to team up with somebody who has the same philosophy, the same type of jewelry in our case, right? If a brand who does, well, if they do antique jewelry, they'll go to Danielle, not to me, because I'm about high-end jewelry. I don't really feature anything antique. So normally, if it's a brand who doesn't fit to my audience, I'll just honestly say, I'm sorry, but you know, you won't get any result from working with me because I don't have the right audience for you. Danielle, I'll pass over to you because otherwise I won't stop chatting.
Those are some great points. Yeah, in terms of like who I work with, I would say I have some criteria that I go by that I've always had since the day I started, which I don't write about silver jewelry. I don't write about gold plated or synthetic gemstones. So that right there kind of cuts out a lot of people. And then if there are brands that do want to work with me, but for example, their photography doesn't really line up with the type of photos that I post, or give them the option of sending me some pieces of jewelry, and then I photograph it the way I like to photograph it. And then that usually gets a better response anyway, because, you know, it's on me and they see it worn. And I also do like video of the pieces on myself. So that really helps, I think, instead of just like reposting something that they posted, that usually doesn't really yield that much. And then I also will say, get things in writing when working with influencers. You can't expect an influencer to post if you send them pieces of jewelry for free or gift them something. Don't ever expect them to post, because I've done that myself. I've sent pieces to people with a lot of followers and expected them to be like, oh my gosh, I love this new ring. And they never posted and never heard from them ever again. So I definitely would recommend getting things in writing before doing anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I work on the partnering the deals, and I've actually worked with both of you on many different, you know, projects and things. And they're two of the most professional influencers, because not all influencers are created equal. So really, when you're looking to, you know, align your brand with someone who has a really engaged audience and reach, make sure, you know, that they're really professional. If you send them emails or DMs, make sure that they're pretty responsive, because if they're not very responsive to a business transaction, then they might not be that responsive to their actual just audience, which would be not so great for your brand. So, you know, finding alignment is really important. I'm going to go into kind of our next section, which is just talking about market trends, things that you are seeing brands, retailers, companies do, you know, on social media, or even just in marketing in general, that's working. You know, we're living in COVID times. So what are you seeing as far as overall marketing trends that are working right now?
You know, I am desperate to add something to the previous subject. Sorry, I will talk about the trends as well. But one big misconception among working with influencers, that once we post something, it sells. Of course, it works with, I don't know, coffee or a piece of clothes that costs 20 pounds or 20 euros, whatever. With high jewelry, we are not salespeople. It's a marketing platform. We're able to open you up to a new audience. In jewelry, the sale, as I explained in the beginning, doesn't happen like this. A person, even if they see something on my Instagram and they really like it, it's going to take some time for them to, they'll follow that person, right? It's going to take some time to understand what the jewelry is, what do they like about them, are they ready to buy, do they trust that person, and only then they'll buy. So if you've teamed up with the influencer and you haven't received a result as an instant sale, it doesn't mean that the collaboration didn't go well. It means that it takes more time. I personally team up with brands only in the long term, so I don't do like, oh, do one post and I'll pay you whatever. I don't do that. If you want to work with me, it's either, you know, at least 6 posts, or I won't be doing promotion, because 1-2 posts means nothing. You have to consistently come up in the feed for people to see you before they start thinking, okay, I've seen them before. Oh, actually, I liked something about them. Maybe I should follow this time if I didn't follow another time. You know, it's a process. So yeah, and while talking about this, I completely forgot what was the question about the trends.
Yes, and actually that's a really good point about, you know, it's like traditional advertising, you know, just doing one ad somewhere doesn't really, it's not that effective. You know, we need to see as consumers, sometimes depending on the price and the category, but we might need to see something, you know, 7+ times before we would actually convert to a customer. And so it's the same thing, that you just need to keep that awareness going. And so that was a really great point. So my question was just about any market trends that you're seeing overall, that's happening with retail, you know, with COVID. We know that, you know, people aren't traveling the way they once did. So any thoughts on, like, or even any brands like outside of the jewelry industry that are just really connecting with their audience, and really, you know, helping their sales? Any thoughts on that?
You know, you're gonna laugh. I'll say that market trend now is every jeweler becomes a jewelry blogger, because now everyone needs to learn how to communicate and showcase jewelry online. It's quite funny, but it's true. You know, some Plus Van Dom brand approached me in the past saying, can you teach us like how to do it? You know what I mean? So it is there. The trend is to learn how to quickly adapt to changes, how to act fast. Because right now, as I said, it's all about fast reaction to anything what's happening in the world. There is new ways, like I'm sure Danielle will also add some bits, but like for 3D photography. I think Boucheron did it. When you go on the website and you can see a piece of jewelry from every angle. I know that some boutiques do a service called click and collect, like for example during the lockdown. Now the rules have eased a little bit. I think some businesses, like you can have one person in the boutique. So if someone wants to buy something, they can either deliver or take it to you know, to the apartment to show or something like this. Again, it's so experimental. I can't give you the right formula because there isn't one yet, but definitely some new approaches to virtual try-ons. There are some apps that allow to try jewelry on virtually. I think there is one, what is it called? Mirar in India. I think it's quite popular, which allows you to imagine how jewelry will look like. So
yeah. I'll just add one thing, because I know we're kind of getting close on time, but like virtual trunk shows that are live on Instagram, and Market Square Jewelers is a vintage and antique estate jeweler that does this really well. So if you want to follow them, it's Market Square Jewelers, and they do such a great job with their Instagram live shows that I think they do almost every day except Sunday. But they have a setup of jewelry, and I'm like obsessed with them myself. I've tuned in multiple times and even purchased pieces, but they'll have a setup of jewelry, and that's the items that they're showing for the live for that day. And they'll do like a scan of the jewelry, and people are very dedicated and tune in all the time, and they'll call out which items they want to see. So they'll pull those items and then show each item one at a time. They'll do like special pricing, which gets people to tune in more often than not. Yeah.
Great. And as far as design trends, what are you each seeing in the market right now as far as collections, earrings, necklaces, rings? What design trends, if any?
sorry, I'm laughing because it's quite a sad question.
I know.
The design trend is to stay alive and introduce accessible lines. At least in my segment and high jewelry, this is what's been happening. Well, not actually just recently, but maybe for the last couple of years. It's one of the really strong trends, but also still the trend is to be different. I think it's quite interesting to see how even brands like Place Vendôme, who play it safe normally because they want to create jewelry which will definitely sell, they try some new things like sometimes, I don't know, Piaget recently, well, I think about a year ago, they created a necklace with emeralds, but the emeralds, they were not faceted. It was the rough emeralds, well, with the faceted one as well, which is quite unusual for high jewelry. Then we see that gemstones like malachite, lapis lazuli, turquoise, they become a part of high jewelry, quite a big one. So it's about being different, being daring and brave to put yourself out there, to differ from everyone else and to get noticed.
That's great. Danielle, any thoughts on trends that you're seeing?
I think people are wanting to buy pieces that have meaning to them. They're not just randomly buying, pieces of jewelry that don't have a specific meaning, something that's sentimental, something that brings them joy. They want to feel good when they buy that piece of jewelry and are reminded of a certain time, a certain milestone, maybe. I think that's just really important right now. Also, in terms of like trends, the neck mess is still totally a trend. Layering as many. Jen, you're doing an amazing job. So proud of you. Ear stack, that's still a trend. I definitely think dainty jewelry had its moment several years ago, and I just don't feel like it's coming back anytime soon. I think pieces are definitely becoming bolder. Lots of good trends.
Yeah.
Color as well. Color has been a big trend for a number of years now, and I don't see it going down at all, which I am a big fan of colored gemstones. So for me, it's joy to see how designers really experiment with color combinations, also using, for example, if we talk about emeralds, not just the top quality ones, but also, maybe more paler ones or more included. It's about how you play with them, how you make their beauty come out. So
yeah, it's great. And then my other question are just any trends that you predict for 2021 to be big?
I just feel like those trends will continue. The ones that I named at least. I don't know what else. I think pieces that can be customized based on like birthstones and engravings and that sort of thing. I think that's going to become popular. One of a kind pieces for sure.
Mm-hmm.
There is some type of jewelry which is recurrent in terms of design. Like, for example, there's always types of jewelry which is inspired by nature, right? Throughout the years, flowers have always returned in jewelry. Then architecture, Art Deco. There are some motifs which are always there in different interpretations. So I guess if you want to play a bit more safe, then do something nature inspired or architectural, art inspired, something that people will like, not depending on their age or style, if it's something simplistic or well, Art Deco, right? It's loved by so many different types of people, regardless even of their, I don't know, not just age, but style, how they wear jewelry, where they're located, because we all know that jewelry preferences differ depending on the area where you are. So, yeah.
And I think personally a trend, and I come from a communications side, but personally it's just really watching what's happening in the market. And you can do this as a company by subscribing to trade and business news media, Business of Fashion, Women's Wear Daily, WWD, reading JCK online, reading National Jeweler, reading Professional Jeweler. There's a lot of really great trade outlets that produce great content. Obviously followed Gem Gossip and Katerina to hearing about other brands and other companies and what they're doing and market trends that they spot, from their perspective. And I think also, going online and just going through and seeing, you know, oh, wow, I'm seeing a lot of companies do this and I'm seeing a lot of companies do that. You know, if you put your marketing cap on, I think that's a really important thing that companies are needing to do now. They can't just stay in their bubble because your bubble isn't strong enough. You have to be looking and seeing what else is out there. Not to say that you have to go completely a different way because someone else is doing something different, but it's just really keeping an eye out of what's happening in the market. Are there any other places that, you know, things, resources that you're reading on a daily basis or whatever, to kind of keep on top of what's happening in the market?
I use actually my audience. I ask them so many questions through my stories and on Instagram stories. I will post that questions feature that Instagram has, and I will ask them straight up, like, what are some pieces that you're on the hunt for? What's on your wish list? And that's like what I keep in mind when I go on buying trips and things like that.
That's great. Katerina, any thoughts? I know we can't go to trade shows like we once did, you know, which was a great place to source trends and see and get a feel and pulse. And that's why digital platforms are really growing in numbers and in community, like GemAtlas, and there's other ones for specific markets. Any other places that, you know, that help you to stay connected to the industry?
Well, honestly, personally, I support what Danielle said, because right now, for me, what trends there are out there is not as important as what's happening with my audience, with my community. That's why I think right now, there isn't one magic formula that works for everybody. We all have to, you know, decide for ourselves with the help of like questionnaires on Instagram, or maybe some polls you can send through your email database to understand what your customer needs and how can you cater to them, rather than just trying to bring some common trends. The situation has changed so drastically, you know, without having the exhibitions. Okay, there are online exhibitions, but it's nothing like it was before. It's very difficult to really understand the scope. Nothing can replace the actual seeing jewelry in real life and holding it in your hands and understanding how it looks like in reality, because then you get to see all the detailing and the craftsmanship, and then you understand, okay, maybe this is the color which is in trend, or this is the finish of gold which is going to be more popular. So personally, I'm not able to comment on what exact trends there are now. Adapt to your own trends. That's my vision.
It's great. Yep, staying authentic to your company and your voice is a trend in itself, you know, and being a real authentic business, but also the humans behind the business. You know, I think that's really important. We've had so many questions come in. It's like crazy. So I'm gonna open up the Q&A. I guess my only last question for you, for both of you, is how do people reach you if they want to stay connected? I would say follow all of us on Instagram. We can drop in the chat. We can drop all of our handles. And I believe we might even have a slide at the end that has all of our information. We'll put that in the chat. But I want to get to some of these questions. But Katerina, just let them know how they can follow you on Instagram real quick.
So it's Katerina_Perez. Maybe I'm just going to type it here. Katerina.
I'll type mine in.
Perez, and I'm quite responsive because I'm obsessed with Instagram.
You too. And Danielle, drop yours in there. Okay, great. Okay. Well, someone said you're a great girl, so thank you. I'll just say that we answered that one. Yeah, right. So, you know, there's a couple questions. I'm going to try to combine them together, but a couple people have come in asking, you know, they're a new company and they're kind of asking, how do they launch their brand? And I think that's a really big question, and there's no direct path. That's like asking, how do you make a ring? You know, there's, well, what kind of metals, what kind of stones, or is it handmade? Is it gonna machine made? You know, there's all kinds of things. So I don't think we would be able to address exactly, but if you were just to start from, the square one foundation of a brand, is there any quick takeaway that each of you think is just really important for someone that's building a company to think about?
First of all, do market research to understand who is out there as a potential competition and how you can differ from everyone else. This is going to be the key to success. If you stand out, if you know your strong points, if you find how you can differentiate yourself from others, you are halfway on the road to success.
Yeah,
Great.
try to do something different that other people aren't already doing. Don't copy.
But also when it's a brand new company, I'm a strong believer that if I'm not professional in something, I would want to invest some money into finding the professional who can tell me what to do instead of trying to say build a brand which I'm not proficient at and gonna make mistakes. It's gonna cost me money and time as well, and then I'm gonna come to the point that why didn't I go to the agency? There are quite a few good agencies who don't just do creative part of your branding, but also all the planning and strategy. So I think at the very beginning it would be wise to seek professional help and to make sure that you already have everything planned out for you by a person who understands how the market works.
Someone asked, any other opinion leaders you would recommend to follow for trends or resources?
So
like any other opinion leaders that you'd recommend to follow for trends or other market advice?
Well, I personally follow different Instagram accounts of trade magazines. I think you can get quite a lot of useful information there regarding trade.
Yes. Yeah.
JCK, National Jeweler.
Business of Fashion, WWD.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I really recommend subscribing to these publications because they really zero in, they do a lot of research, and having access to that research is very helpful. And usually you have to be a subscriber to do that. So I think that's really important. And obviously, looking at just competitors in the market. I also like to tell people in the jewelry industry that, your customer may be buying really expensive pieces from you, but they're also buying skincare. They're also buying handbags. They're buying clothing. They're taking trips. So really get to know and understand the other places because, as much as we love to say that the pie is all jewelry, the luxury pie, it's really, jewelry is a sliver and there's other ways that they're spending. So having an understanding, because skincare companies have mastered social media. I mean, they really have. So looking at some of them for ideas and inspiration can be really a great resource. Let's see, Ansar Live answered that one, done. How do you feel about posting prices online and on Instagram? People always ask for the price, but I feel, it's not really the best thing to always do that. And I'd rather have that conversation versus DM. Any thoughts on posting prices?
Occasionally, it's not a bad idea. You don't post a price under each post, but one out of, 15, 20, just to give sometimes an idea what the piece costs. When you go to a boutique and you can ask for a price, right? Sometimes you can see, depending on the level, of course, of jewelry. If we're talking about super high end, then you won't. But if we're talking about a commercial account whose jewelry costs, up to $2,000-3,000, why not?
I think it just depends on the seller or the designer or whoever is behind the account. And they have to just make that decision whether or not they're going to and stick by that. If they're posting prices one day and then the next day they're not, that just kind of seems a little fishy to me. So
yeah, it can be done with some sort of sequence, but also make sure to include like a little note that this price is valid for such and such date or period of time, because otherwise if the price for gold changes and then suddenly your price has changed as well, someone can see it lower maybe in the past and they say, well, you advertise it at this price, why are you selling to a different price? So just make sure you explain.
Perfect. We're getting close to the time. So if people want to say, I mean, if you're welcome, we can answer more questions because we still have a bunch more. But one question that I think is interesting is that they are it sounds like a designer or retailer that sells higher price point items, 10,000 to 300,000 plus. And so what's some ways that you would suggest reaching that high net worth client on social media? And this is probably a really good Katerina question. Any thoughts on connecting with that really high luxury category audience?
Sometimes I wish there was targeted audience, like targeted advertisement with the audience, high net worth individuals. Unfortunately, it's not there. The only way to advertise, which also helps, is by choosing, the area, the age group, the gender and the interests. So what will help you to build your right audience over time is showcasing your product. My audience knows that I show expensive jewelry. I don't put the prices there. I don't talk about prices at all. But, well, of course, not everybody, but the audience that I need, my type of community, they know that what I'm showing is expensive. So I guess it's what you show and how you show it. If it's higher end, you won't be taking a quick iPhone picture, blurry or whatever, or on a hand without manicure and posting it, right? So your Instagram or any other social media, let it be Facebook, Pinterest, or whatever, needs to show luxury. So people understand, okay, here I'm sure it doesn't cost like a few bucks, it's something expensive.
Really good point. Danielle, there was a question that,
with time, the right audience will come. So it will be the combination of showing the right product in the right way, advertising a little bit, working with the right influencer, and like this, you will grow the correct audience. And as I said in the beginning, don't hunt for numbers. You want to have 10,000 followers, but the right one, then 100,000, but just numbers.
And that was actually another question I did see, was kind of how do you find the right influencer partner? I think the simple answer is look at what they're posting, look at what the images look like, then look at what the caption looks like, then look at what the comments are. If you notice it's only other influencers commenting on there, that could be okay. But if you're really looking to drive customer traffic, make sure you look and that the people that are commenting are making quality comments, that they're not just saying you're beautiful, but they're saying, wow, that ring is really stunning. How many carats is the center emerald or whatever it is? Look for those quality comments and engagement, and don't just go by the numbers, but go by what is being said. Katerina, did you have a thought on that?
Yeah, you see, this is a big problem because, for example, I know that my audience is real. I never purchased a single follower, but I noticed that certain regions, well, the majority of America, for example, some parts of Europe, Middle East, they wouldn't talk. They would put emoji, they put, oh, great, love it. And I'm looking now for ways, of course, sometimes I know my tricks to make them talk, but I'm thinking more and more, how do I make them talk on a more regular basis? Because I look at my account and what I preach, sometimes I look at my account and say, well, why are there so many emojis? Even though I even know many of those people who comment, they still put emojis because they don't have time. Or because this is the new language of Instagram. So this is my next thing to do. How do I solve this?
Danielle, any thoughts on that?
I always leave emojis as comments sometimes too.
Right?
Yep. I mean, I like commenting because then I like receiving comments personally. I like it because it's fun, but I think, yeah, comments where people are really engaging with it and actually having a dialogue, I think that's really fascinating, and one of those things that takes time to do that. And Danielle and Katerina have been in the game for a decade doing this, and they're still always evolving and always looking at that. And I think that's the key, that there isn't a magic formula button that you can click and then all of a sudden it just happens. It's something that evolves over time, that you continue. It's like any relationship, whether your marriage, your family relationships, your relationships with your children, it evolves, it changes, and you have to be able to pivot and make those changes as you go along. And I think, you know, again, social media, it's about relationship building in many, many ways. And you have to be willing to put in the work and also listen and understand, and then also provide and give something. And you know, we're kind of closing on the time. I mean, there's like so many questions. Oh, I wanted to ask Danielle, a question came in about TikTok, working with any jewelry influencers on TikTok. Does it work? This person's pretty skeptical about it, but just curious on your thoughts on that.
On TikTok, I feel like there's not that many jewelry users just yet. I feel like it's early in the game. Maybe there's still a chance for people to join TikTok. There's a niche there that hasn't really been filled, but there are a few people that post a lot on TikTok, and they get a lot of views. And you know, that it's a great place to check out and to see what it's all about. And videos that are like showing a ring that's very dirty, for example, and then putting it into the cleaner and showing it being cleaned, and then showing the after of like it being very sparkly. Those for some reason are very popular right now and generate a lot of views. So that might be a great idea of, you know, jumping on the bandwagon, signing up for TikTok and starting an account and posting a video like that and see where it goes.
Thank you so much for sharing your valuable time and expertise for such an informative and an engaging session. We would also like to thank our audience for such an active participation throughout, and we hope you all enjoyed this and use this knowledge to your advantage in your respective businesses. If you have any further questions, you can always email it at info@gematlas.com, and we will forward the same to our panelists. Thank you and have a great day.